Let's introduce our players. Starting from the bottom right, we have ClouD from Team ATN. ClouD sitting very nicely in division. He's not exactly the top player, but he is 4-3 with a couple points positive in terms of wins over losses. ClouD with strong win can just pretty much secure a spot into the wild card, and of course from the wild card you go into the playoffs, and from the playoffs you go into the finals. In the top left we have HwangSin from Team It's Gosu. HwangSin actually on the outskirts of even being eliminated from the league depending on how things play out. HwangSin needs this win just to be safe for Season 4. Which is, of course, coming up very soon. We have an open tournament. Players are playing for their right for Season 4. So pay attention to that in the coming days.
Just to let you know, HwangSin is sitting at the very edge of glory. He can either lose out. Well, if he loses this game, most likely he's out of the league. He's 27th overall in the standings, and 28th is the spot where you actually get relegated.
That's
and
where Idris sits right now.
Idris sits right there. That is very crazy. Yeah. But just a little bit of information for everybody. HwangSin needs to win this to stay in the North American Star League.
And so we see HwangSin is playing really safe immediately. He's going to scout all of his first 3 initial bases for any kind of proxies. ClouD going to do no such thing. Going to go for a 1-rack CZ, which has been pretty much the choice of every standard opening. A lot of Terrans feel they can hold it, but it is a little bit tricky on a map with such a wide ramp. There's a lot of surface areas to cover, and we've seen a lot of Protoss just try to run by. Remember that series with Hero and Muslim? Hero just tried to run by with a straight-up warp gate timing, and then got a little miss-microed and lost the Stalkers. But in the end, the idea is that the ramp is a little bit harder to protect. So now that HwangSin has pretty much full disclosure of information, he's got a lot of options under his belt.
HwangSin should be actually pretty happy. The one build that you actually don't want to see, I shouldn't say don't want to see, but I think the strongest build overall, the most standard, is actually a Reaper Expand, and that could be quite troublesome in the beginning stages. Reaper Expand is actually pretty decent on this map because there's a lot of entry points into the main base, so it really stops a lot of builds like this. It does beat, to an extent, beat a Nexus first, and also it gets your upgrades very fast to defend this big ramp as you were talking about, which can be very, very difficult to actually situate. So Reaper Expand, I think, overall is the normal build, but ClouD just saying, I don't even care about the map structure. I'm going to just get my expansion as fast as possible and go from there. That will give him the economic boost over a Reaper Expand, but might leave him susceptible a little bit later on.
HwangSin pokes up the ramp and just turns away immediately. And he's just safely assuming his opponent's expanding. Of course, there could be lots of mind games. ClouD could be falling with an SCV Marine all in. That's a lot. Again, alluding back to the Hero to Muslim series, that's exactly what happened. But regardless, even though HwangSin starts his Nexus a lot later, he still has some flexibility in terms of how he can transition from this. If he can go for more gateways and pressure, it's a very common choice from Protosses. Usually it's 3 gateways, and then you just kind of lightly poke at Terran, force some SCVs off, pick them off, and even up the worker count. And we'll see, because HwangSin has been known to be pretty aggressive early mid-game, and it would not surprise me to see if HwangSin decide to poke there.
I think, you know, HwangSin has been actually using the fact that people think he's a bit cheesy to his advantage and saying, okay, I'm going to actually look like I'm doing some sort of pressure and then macroing behind that. It's really powerful. But overall, I think HwangSin has had a very dynamic switch in styles. But look at this. This is exactly the type of metagame switches that I'm talking about. Twilight Council as his tech choice. Normally we see 3-gate robo or maybe 1-gate robo into 3 gateways, but instead we see a Twilight Council and then a robotics facility. So this most certainly is metagaming ClouD trying to say, okay, that normal 10, 11-minute timing you push out with your medevacs, I will have Blink and Charge, or at least Blink, ready for that push to kill it and really give me an advantage taking my 3rd base.
Well, yeah, and I think what really makes it so strong is that you take away the mobility of Terran mid-game with your own mobility, and it's just all of a sudden when Terran's supposed to be capitalizing on Protoss's inability to stretch their defenses, Blink Stalkers can be extremely efficient in low numbers. That said, ClouD is just gonna, you know, zoom up normal macro. He's just getting up his factory tech. Had a pretty decent time, and of course love the incorporation of starting an early +1. Very important to hold off any kind of early mid-game times, like if HwangSin decided to 6-gate. So ClouD's playing very safe, getting the turret as well. And I like that. You know, ClouD just playing a solid form of TVP this far.
Yeah, I do like that. The turret is extra safe against our Templars. Again, going against HwangSin's style, as you actually said. The one thing I want to be critical about is look at the Sim City of ClouD's base. Normally, you will not have all these tech structures in the top left-hand side of your main base. This is really susceptible to Blinkstalkers, Colossus, even drops. So normally these will all be shoved in the bottom right-hand side, but instead he's putting his barracks there, which aren't nearly as important. This might be a big problem as we come up here. And look at this. Stalkers are already down here. There are 7 in total. Blink is just about to finish. 2 Forgers on the way to actually get him into the macro game, and we're going to see a very big Blink come out here as soon as 3 more Stalkers are actually popped up, and he's going to target down that reactor.
And you can see the factory scouts the pylon and the Stalkers, and HwangSin is ready to blink in his observers, and he does miss 1 Stalker, but he's going to target down the reactor. An excellent choice to immediately stall the production of Terran, and he gets the snipe.
Beautiful.
Does lose 1 Stalker, but that's definitely worth it. You know, basically shutting down from 2 Stalkers to 1.
And not only that, you showed Blinkstalkers, so who in their mind would actually go and pressure in? I wouldn't be surprised if we saw HwangSin just go up to 5 gateways and then throw down a Nexus, something like that, because he knows he's very, very safe against a lot of the different 11, 12-minute pushes that exist for Terran.
And I love the fact that HwangSin's not done making observers. A lot of Protosses, MC, Puzzle, we've seen him do a lot. Making 3-4 observers in mid-game just to be able to keep track on your opponent, especially with Blinkstalker, so key. Keep track of your opponent's movements. HwangSin, of course, does know about that turret and needs to play a little bit safe with that, but for now, getting his double upgrades out, so he's going to be on par with Terran or even a little bit ahead. And at this point, HwangSin's looking pretty solid. ClouD at the same time didn't suffer as much losses as normally. Sometimes we see Blinkstalkers come in, do a lot of damage, pick off SCV, supply depots, but for the most part, ClouD's still macroing very well, and as a result, has a pretty hefty supply lead.
Now, these Marines and Marauders are actually pushing out at a pretty opportune time. HwangSin actually cannot go in here. He doesn't want to engage, but he's going to try to... Ooh! He picks up a medevac. That's really, really surprising. Kind of uncharacteristic of ClouD, in my opinion, as ClouD is very good at micro, but losing that medevac is obviously pretty critical. We'll see, though, if it actually comes to affect him a little bit later on.
Ooh, a mass stim and the blink away, trying to see if he can waste that stim, but 2 Stalkers do end to get poked out. Force Field's trying to trap the rest of the units. The Marines do get up the ramp, but a couple sentries will drop, and that is going to hurt HwangSin, but he's got 2 Immortals, making it very intimidating for ClouD to confront this army. HwangSin's still going to buy more time by preemptively force fielding, trying to buy time for his Colossus. His first Colossus just starting. ClouD, at this point, setting up his 3rd as well, trying to see if he can pressure while expanding. A great move from our Terran player.
Yeah, but the difference is this is 2 minutes too late, in my opinion. So HwangSin has already gotten the critical upgrades to actually stop any of the timings that ClouD actually has. There's a lot more for ClouD to actually lose in this than there is for HwangSin. Yes, he can lose the game, but the upgrades are even, so it's a lot harder for ClouD to do a lot of damage from this.
And ClouD trying to force himself up, but you can see HwangSin still trying to buy time, and the Colossus is about to pop out, and this might be really difficult for HwangSin to hold if he can't get his Colossus into position, but a great trap here. 1 more force field just in time, but it looks like the Zell warping maybe just a little bit too late. ClouD with a fantastic positional move, and the Colossus never able to really get in position. A great save from HwangSin, a blink back as well, and a lot of units are weak. Medevacs are getting pretty low on energy, so he can't really afford to keep stimming. Regardless, though, this has been pretty good damage, and the Immortals are now engaging full out. ClouD still has a huge amount of army, but it looks like he's finally starting to get pushed back.
Yep, and you know, ClouD actually played this out really, really well, in my opinion.
Yeah. Taking
out the Colossus when you don't have any anti-air, really, no Vikings, that is a pretty hard feat. Now the Marines and Marauders are just going to town. I don't know how ClouD was able to do this. HwangSin had a build that was geared up to defend this very build. So the fact that ClouD is doing that really shows that he is outclassing his opponent.
SCVs are flirting with the idea of engaging in battle. HwangSin trying to use his Colossus to add as much damage as possible. The Vikings adding a lot of DPS and finally being able to snipe with good Stalker target micro. You can see immediately another force field to save the Colossus. Very nice job. And you can see that HwangSin really trying to hold on, but he is losing a significant amount of mining time and economy by doing this. And during this whole time, he's got 2 Colossus, but he's got nothing to defend them really, except for Cloves.
And that one Colossus is just flirting with death, man. This whole time, that's been absolutely fantastic. Now, the fact that HwangSin is able to actually retain his one Colossus, that helps him stabilize a little bit more, but we might see a little poke right here. Oh, wow, the Colossus is so dangerously close to dying, man. But yeah, it's kind of peculiar that that was able to work so well. I think HwangSin really mismanaged that with the amount of force fields he actually put down. But still, I have to give it a ClouD. I mean, the amount of micro that went into that was superb. Yeah. And he played that absolutely phenomenally.
It's really easy just to get caught and immediately clump. But you can see ClouD, as soon as he ever got up the ramp, he would immediately spread his units, never try to clump up, so that if a Colossus come, he would be in trouble. You see HwangSin is expecting a drop. ClouD does have it queued up. He also is finally starting to move out with his third, so if he can contain Protoss 2 base, he'll be happy at least for a little bit of time while he gets his upgrades. +2/+2 started for ClouD, +2 finished for HwangSin. And with that, you can see immediately that HwangSin is pretty much just waiting for ClouD to make a wrong move, and if that drop all of a sudden dies, then the game is even in terms of supply, and HwangSin can sit a lot safer.
Correct. I mean, the upgrades is slightly in HwangSin's favor, but I don't think that really constitutes too much. Protoss upgrades are actually better if you get the armor upgrades rather than getting the attack. Especially for this period in time, you can go the +2 armors or the the +2 attack really quickly. However, you need to make sure that you have the most superb army composition. Normally, it's a lot of Stalkers and Colossus with a couple of sentries in there so that you don't take a lot of damage using that composition. That's not what we have, and I think HwangSin's upgrades aren't nearly as relevant as we've seen in other games.
Yeah, just because, again, you know, HwangSin has been getting his forges slightly delayed compared to ClouD, and so good upgrade timing from ClouD will pretty much negate the Chrono Boost on the upgrades for now. You see ClouD scouting everything for the most part. He did put down a Ghost Academy just in case. And I like that, you know, if he scouts Templar at any time, he can immediately start production, very similar to how Thorazine reacts in TVP. And you can see that, you know, ClouD is playing just a very solid style, and I feel like he's just macroing well. He's got his second starport for Vikings and Medivacs. He's got enough barracks, and he's going to try to hit this 2-2 timing, but immediately scanning, trying to pick out the Observer. And HwangSin has a pretty scaring army.
Yeah, I don't think there is a 2-2 timing right now for Terran. He has to be so careful because if you look at the units have 5 Colossus out, 6 Vikings out. That's not nearly as much. These Vikings are going to try to flirt with the idea of attacking those Colossus, but just one blink will severely hinder that Viking count, and there goes, you know, the majority of your ability to actually take out that army. So I think ClouD for now is doing it right. He should just... Whoa, what is he doing?
He is engaging with his Vikings and lost half of them. And he didn't even manage to take out one of the Colossus. Did manage to soften it up.
Okay.
And you can see a full-out engagement immediately. Chargers are pushing back the units. ClouD is trying to really work on the Zealots while his Vikings are working on the Colossus. But HwangSin's got a huge army force field to really club up the units. ClouD's going to lose a huge portion of it. And all of a sudden, the army supply goes in the favor of Protoss. A blink forward, a sign of huge confidence from a Protoss player. And as you can see, the remainers of the Marauders are getting absolutely demolished to the might of the Stalkers. And you can see HwangSin pushing forward, ClouD now dropping below. Protoss GG from ClouD as HwangSin takes game number 1 on Belshire Beach.
No, I think ClouD misplayed that a little bit there. Actually, a lot of it. There is no engagement right there. You cannot engage when you're up against 5 Colossus. As soon as that happens, the Zealots are going to give you room. Your Vikings are going to go down. And also your Medivacs are sure to go down. That was a situation where the engagement was strictly incorrect, and ClouD never could have won, even with amazing micro. The sentries are too strong. Everything's too strong. Sentry Colossus is too strong there.
Thinly veiled balance wine from
No. That's not a balance wine.
Completely. Hey, man. It's okay. I lost to this 3 times today online.
That's not a balanced one. The Ghost Academy, either you pump the Ghost Academy a lot faster and get ghosts out so you can EMP and then engage, or you double starport and get 4 Vikings at a time. You get up to around 16 to 20 Vikings, and then you go just attack. It doesn't matter how many Stalkers they have. They're going to kill all of the units, and then it's gateway units against Marine Marauder, and you just go for the composition win.
It's a little tough just because ClouD did have the double starports. He was making Medivacs and Vikings, but the problem was when he finally had that Ghost Academy and everything, he was at 185. And so he has such little supply room to make something happen. Maybe he should try to trade some supply. But yeah, like he was just saying, I'm maxed. You know, there's nothing really I can do with this army, and he felt like he needed to engage. So I can't blame Cloud what he was thinking. He was very clear that Protoss was not maxed from that composition.
Sure.
You could see it. And I think Cloud felt like he had just a huge number advantage, but great positioning. And the Vikings did end up slipping out of his control. So I think that's what really.
I mean, it was Cloud's battle. Can we look at the? Yeah, there we go. The last battle right here. This engagement just shouldn't have happened, but the Vikings actually being committed over here forces the hand, because as soon as the Vikings die, it's like, oh, Protoss has a pretty huge timing, so he's figuring, okay, might as well go in the open while, you know, maybe I can get a good surround. But obviously, there's just not enough Marines and Marauders here. With good Colossus control, he was able to just be so efficient. Those medevacs are pretty much dead. There's no way that you can actually keep those alive. The Stalkers will always blink up. So it's a guarantee you lose all your gas investment when you do an attack like that, especially with the composition that he had.
Strong win for Protoss players from It's Gosu. Thank you to Epson, the provider of projectors for NASL Season 3. Check them out at epson.com. We'll be back with game number 2 between ClouD and HwangSin. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started here in Division 1 at NASL's Week 9.